Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. I'm your host, the Lore Dude, and forgive me if I'm a bit out of it. I'm actually going to be hitting the doctor. Nothing serious, I hope, but the ear issue combined with the fact that it's now causing me regular headaches. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't like having 4-day-long headaches. It's been starting to affect my work. So, that's what I'm going to be doing as soon as I finish Loreweek today. But we got a bunch of stuff to cover today. Not actually a huge amount of stuff, I shouldn't say it like that. I have a ton of Tumblr questions to go through. I've been slowly building up the any day stuff, too. That's kind of neat. I'm going through Metro 2033 right now, for anybody curious where I'm at in the work schedule. Weird game. I don't know what to make of it so far. I love the idea of bullets as currency. Let me just start by saying that. But that's literally the only note I have so far on my notes is bullet as currency. So I'm going to have to come up with something else to talk about. Unless you guys want a 5-second rumination. Good morning, everyone. Who we got here today? Bartman, Corrales, SJ, Rax, Catabo, Wraith, Vigilant, and Jaludo. What is up, guys? Yeah, so, funny little insight. I usually do research, behind the scenes information, before I ever start actually, playing the game. And so I immediately, of course, find out all sorts of things about the Dark Ones in the second game. You know, spoiling many things about the first game, and I'm like, well, okay. And now, as I'm looking some stuff up, going through it, I'm like, well, isn't that guy from the second game? And now I'm going to have issues dissecting the first game from the second game now. Good morning, Hazardous, Adam Suda, Justin, Ice Tray, Max Time, Wanta. What's up, guys? Before we get into anything else, I'm actually going to pause this music really quick. Clearly, because of Justin T. Thank you very, very much, as ever, Justin T. I actually haven't updated the website. Oh, God! Hang on. Where's the... So that's Zalok. Is for Mario Odyssey. Thank you. Thank you very much, Zalok, and thank you very, very much, Justin, as ever I do. Appreciate your guys' continued support. Justin, what would you like to put that towards? Anyways, if I may, just a moment of silence for the passing of Stan Lee. I've actually followed the career of Stan Lee quite a bit, believe it or not, because comics has been such a fascinating thing to me from a purely business perspective. I know that sounds like a strange thing. And one of the things I discovered over the course of my studies of comic book history is that Stan Lee did some crap when he was younger. And then from basically about the 80s and on, he just was like, you know what, screw all that, and just started being a much better person. And he just started being more affable and more interesting and more friendly and more open-going. You know. And he just kind of turned his entire life into being a friendly face. That was basically his shtick, was being the friendly guy. The literal face of Marvel. And he was actually pretty awesome for like 30 years. I mean, I don't think I can say that, you know. I was an idiot 30 years ago, and also 6. But, you know, thank you very, very much. Oh my God. Thank you very, very much, Mike Romano. As ever, much appreciated. Thank you, Anselmo. I hope you're doing okay, dude. I haven't seen you in forever. And thank you, Nathan, of the APM clan. As ever, much appreciated, all of you. Thank you. None of you put that towards anything. What would all three of you like to put that towards? Thank you, Max Time. I got called rude and a horrible human being this week by a total stranger. I have no idea who it was. So, it's always fun to have people sling mud at you for reasons you don't even fully understand. You got it, Justin. Hello, Father Marseille. 5 to Spyro. Thank you very, very much, the Count. I feel stupid repeating myself, but I still mean it, I swear. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Yeah, I know, Anselmo. How'd the honeymoon go? My pick. Okay, thank you, Nathan. Oh my god! Towards Enderal, Skyrim. Thank you very, very much. Uchiha Daisuke. Daisuke? Is that right? God, I always stumble over that. It's funny, I'm actually better at Japanese pronunciations than most other non-English pronunciations, and I still screw up all over the place. Thank you. Thank you very, very much, all of you. I don't know if you guys know this, but my Twitch income has been very slowly increasing. Just like in tiny little bits. And that's awesome. I don't know how to put that in any other way. I actually just got paid for that Friday, I think? Thursday. Last Thursday. And that is very good news. I suppose I should just be open about this. I've kind of hinted at this before. I have to move next year. I don't want to say I'm being kicked out, because that's not really accurate. It's more like circumstances are changing, and therefore I will no longer be able to live here. So I'm going to have to find a new place to live, and that means my expenses are going to basically double. So right now, I don't really make enough money to get a nice place to live. But I do have my eyes on a nice, cheap place, which is in a safe neighborhood. And so that's probably where that's the default backup plan right now. Anyways, my point being is that seeing, you know, the Twitch income going up is good, because I'm going to need that money in a few months here when I move again. Don't worry. One of the reasons I'm absolutely cramming YouTube right now is so that I will have plenty of YouTube backup, so that when I move, you guys will still be getting videos going live. Like I said, I'm on Metro 2033 right now. Weird game. Weird game. So I'll be able to get in. That's not really a good problem. That's not a bad idea, Micromono. As soon as I make enough money to actually put in roots, I'll let you know. I would need to make roughly double what I do right now. That's a number exaggerated. I'd need to make about $2,000 a month more than I currently do in order to comfortably put in roots. Now, I always hate talking about financial matters to you guys. I mean, I absolutely hate that. Because you guys are literally the people who are paying my bills. But I just want to say, I do kind of wish I made that money right now, because there's a house right over there. It's 3 houses down the line that I would buy if I could. Like, this is like the perfect place for me to live long term, like actually putting in roots long term. We're getting Google Fiber installed. Just right now, they're actually actively doing the installation of Google Fiber right now. It's got a nice, it's got a UPS store right there, so I could set up a PO box. It's got a nice grocery store right there. It's a very friendly, very safe neighborhood. Again, safety is a very big deal, given how much expensive equipment I got to run. It would be a nice enough space that I would have space to be able to set up my own studio separate from my room. It would be very quiet. This is a very quiet neighborhood in general. Most of the noise you hear is because of the fact that I happen to be about 6 feet from the AC unit, and the fact that there's a dog here, neither of which would be a factor if I moved in my own place, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of things that are positives about living here. And I do not make that kind of money. No, nowhere near, Rax. The only place that I know of that's getting Google Fiber that's on my list at all for a place to move to is a place I would quite literally rather die than move to. So that's not happening. Anyways, I'm sorry, enough about me. Nobody cares about me. Let's talk about news. So I mentioned the Stan Lee thing. One of the things that amused me in a little news tidbit was Cliff Bleszinski is apparently quitting making video games. Oh, here, let's get the music going again here. There we go. Like, I don't even know what to say about that, you know? It's like, okay, sure. I mean, I believe you, buddy. Gears of War, Rex. Simplest thing to say there. Highlander. If I didn't say hi to anyone, it's not on purpose. Yeah, exactly, Corrales. It's just like, really? One of the other bits of news that came out this week is that Star Citizen officially crossed the $200 million funding range. I try so hard not to judge Star Citizen, not to speak negatively about Star Citizen, but $200 million is an insane amount of money. Now, obviously, even from a personal perspective, that's a ridiculous amount of money. As I've said before, $11 million would set me and my immediate family and friends up for life. But even from a business perspective, even from an industry perspective of actually making a video game, $200 million is insane! Yeah, they're at the point now where they are approaching the record for the most money spent on a single video game. They're getting there. They're on their way towards that. They're up there with some of the highest budget Call of Duties like Modern Warfare 2 or GTA 5. $200 million is ludicrous. And the best part is, from my perspective, and I want to stress the way I say that, there's still no content. Now, when I say that, and yeah, Witcher 3 was significantly less. And keep in mind, Witcher 3, a lot of Witcher 3's budget was on marketing. A lot of GTA 5's budget was on marketing. Bus ads. I've talked about that so many times. Bus ads. Oh, right. You don't want to hear the rest of these terrible musics. Yeah, let's turn that off. That's all the Cordon's project there. Like this one, which was suggested by some person. I don't know who this is. But yeah, this is actually kind of ludicrous. When I say no content, to be clear, you could play the game right now, and it's actually fully playable. It's just there's nothing to do other than going after other players. Like, that's the game right now. It's a open sandbox PvP. That's the world. That's the game. So if you like open world PvP, you're good. If you want to actually do something in your game, then you're screwed. Also, hi Seraphim. My week has been sick. There's a reason I'm going to check out the doctor just after I finish this. Yeah, actually, like Fallout 76. That's not a bad way to put it. Although, actually, I take that back. Because Fallout 76 does have stuff to do other than PvP. Oh yeah, by the way, I own Fallout 76 now. I didn't buy it. So, yeah, I could really spend some time explaining exactly how stupid this is, but honestly, what even do I need to say about Star Citizen and the fact that it's $200 million. $200 million. To give you a little bit of a perspective on how much money that is, just to give you an idea. How many viewers do we have on right now? Someone give me a figure on that, please. $86. Okay. So, if everyone in chat right now working an average, full-time job, making a roughly average amount of money of about $40,000 a year, was working for, full-time, all of us combined would be able to fund this game in about 67 years. I like to try and give a little bit of perspective on money sums, so that people understand exactly how much money actually is. 67 years. Anywho, moving on. Let's get to some real news. And by real news, well, that was kind of my point max time. I don't make 40,000 a year. I make less than that. I'm sure most of us actually make less than that. But that was my point. If we were making what is basically decently good money, then we would be able to fund that in 67 years. Finances. Anyways, let's talk about... So, I've got a bunch of Tumblr questions to run through here. It's been going horrible, Mark Romano. I don't know. It's been going fine, I guess. We'll see. I still have plenty of work to do. Didn't I say Fallout 76 was a gift? Yeah, it was a gift. Although... Okay, hang on. I myself have spoken about Pendulum Effect. And in fact, I have been hugely insulted because, oh, you're just a victim of Pendulum Effect rather than, you know, any legitimacy behind my thoughts or impersonations. Or impressions, excuse me. But I just got to say something really quick. I have been more and more positively inclined towards Fallout 76 the more I hear the universal hatred for it. Because no one... Well, I know one person, who is a friend of mine, actually, who is speaking positively about that game. 100% of everyone else is just... It's disgusting, it's awful, it's garbage, it's crap, it's terrible, it's horrible, it's disgusting. It's just this non-stop cavalcade of negativity about it. If it was not for the fact that I would have to install the Bethesda launcher to install it, then I would probably do so basically just because I don't buy it. Like, I don't buy that kind of massively negative feedback. It's really rare that a game comes out, or anything really comes out, that deserves that kind of massively negative feedback, in my opinion. The last game I can think of off the top of my head would have been Ride to Hell Retribution, which certainly deserved it. And also a game I played, you'll remember, because I wanted to find out for myself. That's really what that boiled down to. And it turns out, lo and behold, it really was a crappy game. But again, I don't feel like installing the Bethesda thing, so whatever. Anyways, let's turn this down a little bit. So here's just a really simple question. Like I said, let's just run through some Tumblr questions. People have been onslaughting me with Tumblr questions this last week. What's your guys' favorite incarnation of Zelda, Link, and Ganon? Hey, Revenstick. Ocarina for all three the count? Twilight for Eingrad. Twilight for Rax. Wind Waker for Geluda. Not a surprise there. Mine's obviously Zelda 1. No, I'm kidding. No, Inquisitor. Link to the Past? Okay. That's an interesting choice, but I'm with it. My Link to the Past, if you don't mind my asking. Skyward Sword. Actually, in all honesty, I actually do like a decent amount of the story of Skyward Sword. Really. In fact, I actually like a lot of aspects of Skyward Sword. In fact, there's only one thing I don't like about Skyward Sword. Majora's Mask. I mean, Link is there, and that is the same Link from Ocarina. Cartoon Link. Yeah, the controls, yeah. I feel like I've said so much about the controls, I don't want to repeat myself. So all I'm going to say is that unless they ever release a version of that game that's, you know, playable without horribleness, I'm never replaying that game. I'm not actually sure of mine. I'd probably go with either Wind Waker or Twilight. I'm really torn on that one. Obviously, it's actually the same Ganondorf in both games, but then again, it's the same Ganondorf in almost every game. Well, that's a new one, Tigzer. No, I did not, Venters. I played the Fallout 4 DLC for the Rumination, but I never actually streamed it. I don't know if you guys know this, part of the reason I'm going to the doctor's right after this is because I have a headache, and have had a headache for, this is the 5th day now. It's the same headache, and I'm pretty sure I know what's causing it at this point. And I may actually need antibiotics or something like that. But I just want to say, Valerian, that you just made my headache worse. Alright, hang on. What did you do here? Ear infection next time. At least that's what I think. That's why I'm going to the doctor. So whatever you just donated for, Valerian, I'll tell you exactly what it's going for. I just told you, in fact. Put it towards whatever. Ear doctor. Got it. Thank you very, very much, Valerian. I really do appreciate it. I wish you'd stop giving me money, but I still appreciate it. What the hell happened to chat? Did chat just get reset? That's weird. Nobody mentioned Breath of the Wild. Actually, funny fact, I do think that my 3 favorite Zeldas, in no particular order, are Spirit Tracks, which I'm surprised no one else mentioned, Wind Waker, for fairly obvious reasons, and Breath of the Wild. I think I am actually the only person who really liked the Zelda in Breath of the Wild. Although it probably it probably doesn't help that she was basically the main character of Breath of the Wild. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyways. As for Ganon, again, I'm really torn between Wind Waker and Twilight, because both of them are the same Ganon at different points in their life, basically. And, Link? Wind Waker. That's such an easy choice. Wind Waker, bam, Link. I don't even need to think about that. I have to admit, though, I am partially biased, because one of the things that I like most about Wind Waker Link is that he is not the chosen hero. He is one of the only Links who is not some great destined hero. He's just a kid who happens to become the destined hero because he wanted to save his sister. And that appeals to me, I'll admit it. That's my take on that. Oh. So, this next one's a Warcraft question, for anybody who cares. I don't like hyperlinks. All blue and underlined. If you were to select 5 members to be the Council of the Horde, who would you pick to lead the Horde? And in what kind of categories? Like, who would be the leader of war, or trade, or whatever? Oh yeah, by the way, the Voot is still up. Make sure you do Voot on this. Last I checked, which was before I started streaming, the Voot is literally within 8. As in, the difference between which is winning is a mere 8 votes. It's currently 9 votes now. So, that's a pretty close vote, so make sure you vote if you haven't already. Bane? Oh, Cairn. Yeah, right. Someone go stab Rax for me, just really quick. I wouldn't put Sylvanas in charge of anything, honestly. Not even, like, Spy Network or whatever. Because I don't trust her enough. Hang on. I'll pull the link up, the vote link. Link vote. There you go. So, as for me, I'd probably put Lorthamar in charge of the war effort. Either that or I'd just put him as the overall head of the council, one of the two. I would not put Galliwix in charge of trade, because that's like putting a Ferengi in charge of trade. Which is something I've been talking about a lot lately, because I've been going through Deep Space Nine again. I agree with that, Dakota. No, I wouldn't put Thrall in the council. Let him retire! Let the poor dude retire. Let's see. God, do we have any decent leaders of the Horde left at this point? Like, Bane is such a pathetic nobody that I just can't put him in charge of anything. Sylvanas is right out. Lorthamar's awesome. Galliwix is Galliwix. That doesn't leave a lot at this point in time, does it? Oh, that's true. We do have Thalyssra. Well, that's obvious. Put Thalyssra in charge of magical affairs and research. Duh. Bam. I'm mentally excluding Varrock from being part of the council. I suppose if we were to include Varrock, he would be the Supreme Commander, the military head. But at the same time, I honestly feel like that's a bit of a waste of Varrock's talents. Varrock should be the frontline general. He should be the guy who is leading his troops out there, you know? That's my opinion anyways. So I still probably wouldn't put Varrock on the council unless I had no one else. That's up to people next time, not me. That's why I'm doing the poll. That poll will be live for probably the rest of the month, by the way, so you do have some time to vote on that. That's another good point, Takoida. Remember that, logically speaking, the Horde should be basically absent, troops and material right now. So having Sarafang in charge of making new troops would be a very good use for him. The man's a good trainer. I don't know. I kind of defunct on this question because we don't have any good people left in the Horde, really. I mean, we have a few. We have a handful. Like, who do you put in charge of agriculture in the Horde at this point? No, I know, Max Time. I know. Trust me, it gives me stress every day. There's a reason I'm trying to push through YouTube as hard as I can. Yeah, I remember that, the count. I mean, Oculith is awesome, but I don't think he needs a council position. I guess the counselor in charge of telemancy? Nah, let's just put him under Thalyssra. Yeah, I know, right, Corellis? I agree, Geludo. But for some reason, the Horde is at full military readiness, and so is the Alliance. However, there's hints that they're finally going to showcase the consequence of the last 2 wars back-to-back, so here's hoping. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. I don't have a good answer for this. I don't. So I just kind of default on this one. Next question. So for those of you who don't actually follow my Tumblr... Sure, Seraphim. For those of you who don't actually follow my Tumblr, apparently they've started doing this Lorerunner versus such and such deathmatch kind of a thing. I've been answering most of these myself, but I got one I kind of wanted to share with you guys, and that is... It's basically the Star Wars edition. So, what happens in Lorerunner versus Master Vrook? Or Yoda, or Thrawn, or Palpatine, or Palpatine. Oh, you don't have to follow my Tumblr. It's basically a Q&A thing. I actually answered a Vrook one separately, and the way I answered it was very simple. I approached Vrook, and I'm like, hey, listen, I want you to know that there's this thing called the dark side, and I really think we should learn more about it and teach it to our students so that they have a better understanding and comprehension of the dark side, and therefore they can actually, you know, have a better way of defending themselves when the dark side starts to become a thing. And then Vrook immediately goes into this massive tirade about how they have to avoid the dark side at all costs. I stab him in the throat. Whoops. That's the wrong playlist. Sorry. I was listening to that last night. I want this playlist. Here we go. As for Yoda... I walk up to Yoda, and I'm like, why the dogma? And Yoda's like, do not understand, do I? And I'm like, no, listen, Yoda. Why the dogma? Explain yourself. And then I'm like, okay, listen. Well, that's a very weird comment, but thank you very, very much, Magister. Loss. Okay. Got it. Putting it towards Hearthstone. Thank you very, very much, Magister. As ever, I do very much appreciate your continued support. Thanks. So, Yoda and I basically just get into this argument, and finally I convince Yoda of the fact that he's been too rigid in his thinking. And he goes off and just starts considering his life choices for a while. As for...
Oh, welcome. Pay close attention. Hopefully you'll learn something.
Okay, who's donating? It's Senor Sorrow. Hang on, let me make it so I can read this better. Here we go. Well, I'm not going to look at this right now because I'm streaming, but thank you. Thank you very, very much. If you'd like to put that donation towards anything, let me know, and I will do so. And, yeah, thank you. Oh, yeah, I actually saw that, Seraphim. In fact, I linked a joke about that myself. For those of you not aware, this is a joke. The kilogram is now going to weigh exactly 1 pound, and that will fix everything. But yeah, they redefined a few units this week. Mostly because the, I can't think of the name of it right now, is slowly atomically deconstructing. So. The next one is Lorerunner versus Thrawn. So I go up and I'm gonna look at Thrawn, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and I'm like, alright, what do you want me to do? And he's like, what? And I'm like, no, you win. I'll work for you. What do you want me to actually do? And then I end up working for Thrawn. Lorerunner versus Palpatine the Senator. As I walk up to Palpatine the Senator, and I'm like, hey, listen, what do you want me to do? And he's like, what? I don't understand. And I'm like, no, listen, you win. Okay. What do you want me to do? Please don't kill me. He's like, why would I kill you? No, God, please. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. Then I walk up to Lorerunner the Emperor, excuse me, Lorerunner the Emperor. Wow. I walk up to Palpatine the Emperor, and I'm like, hey, Palpatine. Oh, my master. You are truly the most great and awesome master of all time. Truly, your power knows no bounds. And he just kind of goes like, ah, whatever. And then I just leave because he has no interest in me. No, I'm not going to be Emperor. I came up with my own title. Duh. And yes, I know who Damask is. Hego, actually, sorry. So that's my answers to that one. Next one, so this is actually an interesting one. This is more of a typical question. Of course I would, Venters. Let's see here. How many of you guys saw the Detective Pikachu thing? Now, the reaction that I've seen from people to this has been, suffice it to say, mixed. The thing that I find weirdest is most people seem to be weirded out by the fur. I'm not sure why. I know that sounds like a weird thing. To me, fur was just a super logical direction to go. I mean, right? This is actually, I know this is going to sound like a weird segue, but anytime you take something that is clearly cartoony in design and try to make it into something realistic, you know, something that you could think would actually exist in real life, you have a few choices to make there, and it's actually been an interesting problem and conundrum for, like, the last 20 years or so, give or take. Anyways, point being, I think they did a good job with the CGI on Pikachu. I'm not really sure about the rest. They don't show them well enough for me to judge that. And, of course, it's Ryan Reynolds. But the actual question, coming to the point, is, after the success of Detective Pikachu, this is obviously a, you know, theoretical here, you've been chosen to make a new live-action Pokemon movie with the same general concepts. Which Pokemon do you want to feature, and what overall story arc do you want to do? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, Venters, but I doubt that's the only reason he did it. I'm sure the other several $1 million is why. Officer Charmander. Char. Flame. So no team next time? We don't want to have Team Normal, or, oh god, what do we call them? Team George? No. What was the name? It was actually a really good name, and I liked it. I can't remember right now. So, My Little Pony, hazardous, is what you're saying. Squirtle Squads. No, not Team Rocket. Squirtle Squad heist movie. I'm not even sure what I would do on this one. A lot of people are saying Squirtle. I didn't know Squirtle was so popular. I personally hate Squirtle. I'm just saying Bulbasaur's better. Just definitively, universally, in 100% of the ways. Squirtle Squad. Ain't no suicide here. Gosh, I don't know what I'd do. I actually thought about this a bit, because I think about all these questions before I pull them on camera. I did, in fact, Volcanto. I didn't care for it. No, Revan, come back! Hello, Nymph. The problem is, it's just so easy to come up with like a dozen or so everyday life kind of stories, like slice of life within the Pokemon setting kind of stories. And so many of those are so easy to do that I barely even feel the need to bring them up, right? Clearly I need to do something. I need to subvert expectations. That's what I need to do. Oh, probably Tara Branford. Probably. I gotta be honest, my knee-jerk reaction is to make a movie focused on Mew. Like, I kind of like the idea of a movie. We can make it a relatively low-tier, down-scale movie. Just have Mew be the primary Pokemon, and have whoever interacts with Mew have no idea who she is. Like, no understanding of the significance of this entity. Just, oh, hello, it's a Pokemon. I don't recognize you. Huh, alright, whatever. What's your name? Mew. Okay, sure. Let's go. And then, you know, life. Maybe end the film with Team Rocket finding out about Mew. Something like that. I don't know. Of
course you follow me. They all do.
Alright, who just done? It's Ice Tray! No, Ice Tray! Okay. It is good to know at least someone wants me to do the ORAS run. Here. There we go. Thank you very, very much. Again, Ice Tray. And then Mew destroys the world! Actually, I have Pokemon Let's Go just sitting right over there in my desk. It's the Eevee version, of course. It's still in its wrapping. I don't have time for that. Although, speaking of which, by the way, guys, I'm done grinding in Octopath. Could you believe it? Anyways, I've completely lost my train of thought. Moving on to the next question. The next question is one that threw me for a loop, so I'm really asking you guys this one. I think you are, Ice Tray. A Mafia-style Pokemon story? How many negatives for that? I think we're up to like 13 negatives so far for Octopath. I don't know off the top of my head. I really don't. So this next question, this is one I definitely wanted to toss at you guys, because you guys are awesome. Who's the best monk? Like the overall best monk-type character across, like, all of fiction? Sabin. Bruce Lee. Oh my god, I knew it! This is all in the Matrix! Yeah, all of fiction, that's what really threw me. Like, right off the top of my head, you know, I started thinking of monks. Tifa, Sabin, Ida, I guess. I'm trying to think of who else. Ursula. I wouldn't say Yang. I stand by my statement that Yang is not a proper monk. He's a different thing. He's a martial artist. I'm never budging on that one. One Punch Man, which I know nothing about, except for the fact that he can defeat everything in one punch. Goku, I mean, technically, like, if I'm not mistaken, half of the Dragon Ball characters qualify. Oh, it was horrible, Revan. Jesus Christ. The monk type? Who's Ong or Aang? I don't even know who 100 Eyes is either. See, this is why I asked you guys this, because I don't know. I don't really do anime or manga, and I imagine that's where the character is really going to come from. But anyways, so if I was to define a monk type is someone who is basically supernatural, except that supernatural ability comes purely from a degree of focus and the ability to control their own body to an extreme extent, right? You know, the ability to channel chi, or the ability to augment themselves to superhuman levels, that kind of a thing. That's what I would consider a monk type. Whereas a martial artist is someone who just is really good at fighting someone with no weapons, with their body being their only weapon. That's the distinction there. Obviously, there can be some blur over, but that's why I make the distinction between, for example, Yang, who is a very good martial artist but has no superhuman anything, and Sabin, who can literally shoot beams of chi at people, right? Which one was Krillin? Iron Fist would qualify as a monk, absolutely. That's a good example. Oh, that's North Star, isn't it, Leander? Short, bald one. Does he have, like, things on his head? Which Baldwin? It's the same problem with Alec Baldwin and Kevin Baldwin. Anyways. What can Tifa do that's supernatural? So, as with most of the main characters, most of them have at least some degree of supernatural ability, but Tifa herself is basically at Captain America levels without even trying. She could arguably go past that. In other words, she has significantly increased durability, speed, and strength that a normal, regular human being simply could not have. Now, it is a matter of debate how much of that is because of her own abilities and because of materia. Because, as with any FF that has multiple media, we have to kind of get interpretive. But, you know. And yeah, she can literally summon a dolphin when she punches you, but that we're just going to ignore that. Zell? You know, I don't know if Zell qualifies as a martial artist or a monk. I'd have to think about that. Obviously, most of the main characters in FF8 aren't superhuman at all. The only reason they can do superhuman stuff is because they have access to Guardian forces. That's the thing. That's actually a great plot point, and one of the things I like about FF8 is that all of them are very low tier, except for the fact that they have the GFs, which is basically what's augmenting them so much. So I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Master. That's true. Splinter would qualify as a... In some settings, Splinter would probably be more of a martial artist than a monk, now that I'm thinking about it. But sometimes he's also a monk, depending on the continuity we're looking about. Good morning, Mega DA. One of these days I'll come up with a unified way to say that name. I keep wanting to say Mega Dragon, but that's completely wrong. Yeah, quite a few characters in Jade Empire would qualify.
Of course you follow me. They all do.
Alright. Who's still donating? It's Zastil! Oh! So there's an idea. First of all, thank you very, very much for the donation. Second of all, his suggestion is Hashal, which I don't even remember how to pronounce, from Legend of Dragoon. For anybody who've played that. Hashel? God, it hasn't even been that long since I played through Legend of Dragoon. I think it was like last year when I played through that for the Rumination. Kazuma Kiryu. Oh, lol, Leander. No, I forgot about him too. Didn't even occur to me. See, this is why I wanted to ask you guys about this. This is such a huge topic. Hey, Benoth. Good to see you. Someone, who is it? Sildeer asks about Batman. The problem with Batman, ignoring the fact that there's 70 different Batmans, is the fact that most of the times when Batman does something that is truly superhuman, there is something external augmenting him. That with his mind, his technology, and his resources, you know, the riches and power and political connections, he has gathered something to augment himself to be superhuman. So, I don't think Batman would qualify as a monk. Batman definitely qualifies as a ninja, not just because of the movies, but because a ninja is all about very, very careful and precise usage of tools in order to overcome things that should overpower you. I mean, that's just Batman in a nutshell, isn't it? Neo? Neo. Let's just push the Matrix out of this one. let's just remove the Matrix from this discussion. I mean, my first thought was, well, we have to only consider things that happen within the Matrix, but then I realized that Neo could actually do that outside of, has superpowers outside of the Matrix. Yes, basically, Jimmy Bailey. It also makes it so that more people can see my stream easier. That's one of the reasons why I turned off the no delay thing, Jimmy Bailey. I actually have the ability to turn it on, so basically there's 0 delay between me and you. But that increases the overall throughput, or, excuse me, bandwidth requirements, which increases lag, which makes it so certain people who have a worse connection can see me less. So I do 720p at 60 FPS in order to make it so that more people can see me. Well, again, Siler, it depends on which Batman we're talking about. That's the problem with any comic book. You notice I'm trying to stay away from comic book characters in this, because there's like 50. That's an exaggeration, but there's like 12 or so of like every comic book character, so it's like... That being said, I would say that, like, for example, let me use a direct example. Let's use Captain America from the MCU, right? Now, for the most part, Captain America would seem to qualify. The problem is, Captain America does not have, like, the internal requirements of being a monk. He's certainly a good fighter, and he's certainly superhuman, but all of that comes from the fact that he had a serum punched into him, right? He doesn't have mastery of his own self. He doesn't have supreme capacity and knowledge with himself to the point of superhuman abilities. He had a serum pumped into him, right? So I would say he doesn't qualify, for example. The Switch, Venters. Easy answer. I have gotten so much use, and the Switch has been such an awesome game changer for me that that's just such an easy answer. Switch, duh, done. That's also assuming I have a gaming PC. If I do not have a gaming PC, the Xbox, the Xbone would be more interesting. Yeah, Daredevil is, I would agree, is closer to a monk than Cap, although I also wouldn't say that Daredevil is a monk. Again, Iron Fist, monk. That's a pretty clear distinction right there. Past that, it gets a little trickier. Thane? Thane's a tough one for me. I would say Thane probably kind of drifts a little bit more into martial artist. A really good martial artist, mind you. But, you know, again, kind of like Yang in FF4. Someone, I don't know, that's... I defined that earlier, Venters. Did you not hear me? Zikar! Zikar! Just for you, look casual. Did I say strange? I had no intention of saying strange. When did I say strange? I might have been reading and saying... You know, every now and again you're reading and you say the word you're reading rather than the word you meant to say. Oh, okay. Sorry. They're talking to Rax. Never mind. Ignore me. So a monk is someone who has incredible control over themselves, their spirit, their soul, their chi, whatever, to the point where they can actually become basically superhuman. A martial artist is someone who's really good at fighting without weapons. And again, they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. Oh my goodness. Goes. No. Dixar. I love how we just drifted into Mass Effect with this one. Anyways, let's go ahead and chop this off here. I mean, if you came to me and said, Lore, pick one, I'd be like, Sabin. And I know that everyone's just like, oh, it's just because you like Final Fantasy. And that is certainly part of why. But to me, I think I picked Sabin because, honestly, I feel like he embodies what I personally perceive to be a monk. A lot of other characters across fiction, in games, in movies, in comic books, can qualify as monks, as we've been talking about. But I think Sabin is basically the example of that. Right? Sabin is a martial artist who is a monk, who is really good at both. My take on that. Also, Sabin suplexes a train, but I was ignoring that in my argument. Although, if I'm being 100% honest, I'm pretty sure some, Dragon Ball or anime character would probably be the definitive monk. I just don't know enough to really judge that. Next Tumblr question. Got two more, guys. Two more. So this one... Where's our timestamp? This is a long-standing question. People have been asking this question for years. Someone from, the past, 16th, 7th, 8th, 10th century, suddenly is warped into the modern era. What do you think they would think? Good morning, Dieselage. You're going to have to explain what you're talking about. Unless you're talking about the Sylvanas thing, in which case, let me make my opinion very clear. I do not think there's a Sylvanas retcon. Let's just get that over with. Who? Tixar? I know, so we're Cookie. That's why I'm just leaving this question nice and open. This is a super open question. Keep in mind that anyone from the 7th, 8th, or 10th centuries probably would not be able to speak just about anything. 16th, maybe. Maybe. I mean, this is a question that fiction has been debating with for basically all of fiction. This is a very, very long-standing what-if question when it comes to fiction. Pai Mei, Tigzar? Still don't know who you're talking about, but I'll take your word on it. I never got into Kill Bill. I don't like I don't care for that guy or his movie style. So I don't think I've ever liked any of his films. I've seen quite a few of them. Yeah, the best part is anyone brought forward... The local dialect thing that Jaluta brought up is something not a lot of people really consider. If someone was brought... Even an English speaker was brought into here, or like a German speaker... Quentin Tarantino, thank you. Was dropped into Germany or whatever. Local dialects were such a thing back in the day. Like, communication might be possible, but... yeah, it'd just be like... And so you're dropped into a place where there's a lot of things you don't understand. And there's a lot of places that you no longer recognize, and everyone around you is speaking gibberish. Yeah. Well, that person is very developed, Micromono. Although possible. Very possible. They didn't specify who we pulled forward. So even if we brought forward, like, someone who is learned, they would probably just look around just like, huh? Personally, I agree with Rax's overall assessment. I think that one of the two most likely things would be either a total psychological meltdown or basically completely readjusting their mentality in order to fit their worldview. In other words, that they might adapt by basically refusing to adapt. Just being like, okay, right, here, let's go to the thing. Okay. They just get into the car, like, and then sit there like, this is fine. There's nothing wrong here. And I'm over-exaggerating, but you get my point. Just kind of shut down is what I'm trying to say. All right, I'll drive you to the grocery store. Let's go get some Mexican food. Mexican. Here, have some Mexican. Oh, God! Runs to the bathroom. Because think about how much they would have no ability to deal with the diseases of the modern era. Remember, one of the reasons that disease is as conquered of a thing as it is in the modern era is not only because of our medical care, but because of the fact that we have very developed immune systems. Someone from the 8th century brought into the modern era will probably have no way or no possibility of dealing with that. They might quite literally die to a cut or a cold. Now, assuming we could take care of them, we might be able to circumvent that immune system problem. But that's something that's almost never addressed when it comes to this kind of what-if scenario. Never mind the fact that their digestive system is very adjusted to a specific type of food. And if you don't understand what I mean by that, let me put it to you this way. Whatever diet you have, that you eat on a regular basis, is what your body is adjusted to. Your digestive system has adapted to the type of food you intake on a regular basis. Now imagine if you completely shift that to a completely different type of diet. Like, your body, it won't kill you, but that will be a very unpleasant series of experiences as you try to adapt to the new diet. Yeah. McDonald's would probably kill them. No. What's the name of that stupid thing? White Castle. There you go. White Castle would kill them. Sushi, yeah, sushi could actually kill someone. That's a true one. And yeah, Frostios, you have a valid point as well there. Oh, God. Yeah. Okay, that's another thing. I've heard theories. I've never heard any concrete evidence on this one way or the other. But I've heard theories for quite some time about the idea that people from the older eras had a lot of the issues we have now and just didn't know what they were or how to deal with them. Like, for example, being unable to see properly without glasses, or being lactose intolerant, or having a gluten allergy, or having difficulty with their blood sugar levels. You know, all the kind of things that we nowadays know of as being fairly normal may have existed back then, and they just didn't know what it was or how to comprehend it or how to deal with it. Oh, that's funny, Ventures. That doesn't sound like Quantum Leap, though, because in Quantum Leap, he's in their body. So their body would still respond to things. Yeah, cancer. It's another one. I do remember that, Corrales. I do remember that. Yeah, clearly you just haven't given enough money to the church. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have even said that. Anyways, so long story short, I've given my answer. They would be lost and dissolve into insanity. Or they would shut down mentally until they had a chance to adapt long term. Like, assuming we took really, really good care of this person. And either way, they might die from any one of 1,000 different complications. Personally, no, I do not think that's a natural thing for Osteos. Although that's an opinion, not an objective fact. That's just my opinion on that. So, now this question I need your guys' help on, because I'm not a Game of Thrones person. Okay? So you're going to have to help me with this one. Kratos, circa God of War 4, is dropped into Westeros. Passing through the portal cut his power level in half and gave him the ability to comprehend the language, typical Tier 1. He finds himself somewhere in the Riverlands during the time of Joffrey's reign and the Robb Stark Rebellion. And who Joffrey is. Where does Kratos go? Does he go north or does he go south? How do events play out? What does Joffrey do after learning of this newcomer and his battle prowess? No, this question was asked, like, this morning, Hazardous. This is pretty new. Oh, and that's why I found that amusing, Black File. Kratos, at half strength, is still really high tier. Especially when it comes to something as relatively low tier as Westeros. So what do we got here? Some people say north, Starks, north. It literally says somewhere in the Riverlands. That's the exact wording on the quote there. The God of War 4 Catabo, that was mentioned at the beginning. North. Why would anyone go north? I don't know. He goes far away from the Riverlands because all of the fighting there. North above the wall. Yeah, I like the idea of Joffrey trying to control or take over Kratos, and then Joffrey would die. He wouldn't even die brutally, because Joffrey isn't something worthy of his rage. Kratos would just be like, what are you trying to do? And Joffrey's like, listen, I can't do Joffrey voice, but, listen, I am your king. You will do as I command. God sees him, and Kratos just effortlessly crack, there we go. And the guards fall dead, and Joffrey's like, no, you will do what I say. And Kratos just kind of turns and looks at him. And then Kratos walks away. Then Joffrey persists and, charges up, after him. Then Kratos grabs him by the neck and snap, and then Joffrey's dead. Let's assume he does not have his axe, because at that point, this is just ludicrous. That axe is a super, super powerful utility weapon. Boy. Do not speak to your betters, boy. I am your better. I am your king. Snap. And he's dead. Actually, if I'm being 100% honest, I can't picture Kratos killing Joffrey unless Joffrey really goes overboard. Not because he wouldn't want to, but because Joffrey is so far beneath Kratos. It would be like a particular annoying ant is poking up against your toe. Do you even notice? Probably Crazy Norse. And if they decide to attack him, that'd be funny. Oh no, it's a barbarian! Get him! So there's a lot of people dead now. Oh my god, it's a barbarian who's killed all our troops! Get him! And so then there's a lot more corpses. And Kratos is just in the middle of the air just going like... ugh. Why do these people attack me? I have no quarrel with you! See you around, Seraphim. Send the mountain after Kratos. And then he's dead. I mean, yeah, no, there's... about an hour and 3 minutes, Sangania. Would any of their swords be able to pierce him? Honestly, probably not. Again, even at half power level, Kratos is ludicrous levels of strength and power. It's part of the point of Kratos. Now, oh god, I can't think of the character name. Oh, what's his name? Yes, you did, Sangania. I gotta look this up now, because it's gonna bother me. Peter Dinklage. What's Peter Dinklage's character? Because I could just picture Peter Dinklage's character being like, "Hey, you look a little lost." Tyrion. Okay, Tyrion. And being like, "So, you wanna go get a drink?" "What kind of drink do you have?" I mean, we can get whatever. Please don't kill me. "I will not kill you if you do not attack me." Okay, that's cool. I just want to get you a drink. Maybe get you a path forward. Like, you look a little lost. Is that cool? Okay. Oh, Jesus, Jimmy. Yeah, that sounds like Dark Souls to me. Yeah, I can't joke. I'm not a funny person, but yeah. Well, I'm assuming that Kratos basically gets dropped in the middle of crap. I'm not sure where the Riverlands are exactly. His first step would probably be to just try to get away from society as much as possible. At least you are not... Well, no. You are less annoying and less useful than the dwarves I have interacted with. You know, that's probably something Kratos would say. I don't know. Funny fact, I get to replay God of War 4 soon. New Game Plus. Let's see. So I do actually have a couple other things to talk about. Look, other than Tumblr questions. I swear I have some actual news to talk about here. So I know this. We already kind of mentioned Detective Pikachu. But I gotta talk about Detective Pikachu for a minute. Is that okay with everyone? Detective Pikachu. When the trailer went out, my first reaction was basically, this is real? Now I want to explain what I mean by that. Because it's not the ludicrousness of its coming out that bothered me or anything like that. What got to me was the fact that, usually speaking, these kind of projects don't actually happen. Right? I mean, how many of you know... what was the game I was just looking at? The Infamous movie. Anyone remember that? I won't blame you if you don't. But what I'm trying to say is that there are so many dozens, if not hundreds, of movies where they say, "Oh, we're making such and such a movie," and it never gets made. They even sometimes get into pre-production, and it still never gets made. You know, development hell is a thing. No, there is not an Infamous movie. That's my point. There never was an Infamous movie. But they did start work on one. Excuse me. But that's my point. This kind of thing happens all the time. This is regular. I mean, how many of you guys recall that they're technically currently working on a Mass Effect movie? Anyone remember that? Yeah, Leslin's just mentioned that in chat. So, this is why I bring this up. When I heard that they were going to do a Pikachu movie, and then a Detective Pikachu movie, I was like, yeah, okay. And they announced it like 2 years ago. So I was just like, yeah, alright, sure. And I didn't believe it. Because it's so normal for this stuff to not go anywhere. I mean, they actually...
Your dedication will be rewarded.
They actually began pre-production work on Warcraft 2, for example, if you remember that. Load. God damn it, Ice Tray, stop. Thank you, Ice Tray. Thank you very much. What would you like to put that towards? Unless you... I mean, we got 2 Pokemon-related things on the funding list right now. Oh yeah, the Metal Gear Solid movie, that was another one that they were going to go with. God, what else? There are other examples, I just can't think of it right now. Headache. But my point being... My point being that I want to say thank you very, very much, Diesel Edge. As ever, very much appreciate that continued support. If you'd like to put that towards something, please let me know. All right, so you got it. Ice Tray, you got it. Really quick, Sangani asks, is there no Pokemon Let's Go planned? So, I don't really decide what we premiere run. You guys do. Now, I still have to vet anything that you nominate for premiere run. Now, as of right now, one person has nominated Pokemon Let's Go, so I will be adding it to the website sometime today, or tomorrow, because I have a lot of work to do. But at some point, I will go ahead and actually add that to the website, and anything that's on the website for a while and gets no interest eventually gets removed from the website. So that's the answer to your question, Sangani. I do own Pokemon Let's Go as a gift from a friend. It's right over there. I mean, here, I guess I can show you it. So you don't think I'm lying, do you? There we go. I have the Eevee version, obviously. Still in the wrapping, as you can kind of see here. So, you know, I can't open it. But yeah, when I saw this, my biggest surprise to me was that they were making it all. That it's actually coming out and that they're really producing it. Now, video game movies have a really negative stigma for good reason. I've analyzed and discussed the video game movie thing before, but I kind of wanted to talk this again, just really quick. Because it is my opinion that the biggest single most sincere reason why video game movies usually don't succeed is because they're not made to make a good movie. Now, I know that sounds like just such a strange thing to comment on, but let me put it to you this way. Turning something that is a deliberately interactive medium into something that's a completely non-interactive medium, well, that's a challenge. Not an impossible task, just a challenge, something you've got to do and take some very serious time and effort and work into making something good out of it. It almost, by design, has to be interpretive, similar to how books have to be interpreted when going into movies. Honestly, I kind of point this out again because of the same exact thing that happens with books. Pokemon Let's Go, Markley. It's a Switch game that's right here. You got it, Diesel Edge. Thank you again. I think we're getting really close with that one. But you get my point? Like, it takes... I'm going to point to Jurassic Park, okay? To be 100% blunt, I don't think Jurassic Park the book would have made a good film. But that's not what they did. In fact, they actually got... John? No, that's wrong. Oh, God, what's the author of Jurassic Park? I can't think of his name all of a sudden. I want to say Crichton, but I can't think of his damn name. Anyways, they got the author of Jurassic Park to write the script for Jurassic Park the film, and he adapted it. He took the core elements. Is it Michael? He took the core elements of the story and readjusted those for a film format. And we got Jurassic Park as a consequence. It was Michael. Okay, Michael Crichton. I want to say John Crichton, but that's the Farscape in me talking. And that's my point. Effort was made to adapt the work to the new medium, and it worked. That, in my opinion, is what video game movies need to actually make them be good. And the overwhelming majority of video game movies don't do that. They're made by someone who's trying to stay too close to the original source material, or they're made to be a tax write-off, because we got to add Uwe Boll into this. And they were made to try and make it so that they could cash in on the popularity of something. You know, the usual licensing problem. There's a reason licensing games, licensing books, licensing toys, licensing food, licensing films all have a bad rep. It's because the majority of licensing works aren't done to make a good work, they're done to cash in on popularity. By contrast, Warcraft, and I know I'm going to get some flack for this, was, in my opinion, a good film specifically because it was trying to adapt the ideas of Warcraft 1 into a film. Now, it certainly had its flaws. I'm not trying to say that's a perfect film or anything like that. Oh my god, the guy they got to play Lothar was just terrible. But anyways, point being, effort was taken to try and adapt the material into the new medium, and in my opinion, it worked, for the most part. Now, that's why I bring up this Pikachu thing, this Detective Pikachu thing, because I could be wrong, but this looks like people have put actual honest-to-God work into this. And That's interesting to me. Because, in my opinion, that's what is needed to make a good adaptive film. Putting real, honest-to-God work into it. What do you guys think? Now, someone earlier asked to address this question. I didn't catch it. It was the count. Would games work better as TV shows? Honestly, yeah. I think that would be a perfect choice. Any of you guys who've watched any of my Final Fantasy stuff, one of the things I keep saying is I don't want to make... By the way, hi, Gary. I don't want to make a Final Fantasy VI movie. That'd be terrible. I want to make a Final Fantasy VI show. I want to adapt Final Fantasy VI into a television series. You know? I would say no, Venters. I don't consider the Pokemon movies video game movies. To be clear, when I say video game movie, no, they do actually help fund them, Sungania. Although it's slightly more complicated than that, but it's both, basically, showing interest and funding. I mean, I do... This is a bad example because this was a gift, but I do have to pay for the games I review, after all. Anyways, what was I saying? I actually agree with that max time. Something about TV shows. God, I'm sorry. It's really hard to concentrate right now. Oh, do I consider... Right. Okay, so do I consider the Pokemon films a movie? Right, that's what I was talking about. The definition of a video game film is an adapted work that's supposed to be the game in film format, right? Mortal Kombat, Super Mario Brothers, Warcraft, all the Yui Bowl crap, you know. It's intended to be the Street Fighter thing, right? That's intended to be that's what a video game film is, in my opinion. Wreck-It Ralph, for example, would not qualify as a video game film. Again, the Pokemon movies wouldn't really qualify as a video game film. And I know that's kind of getting into gray area, but the reason I say that is because the Pokemon films are more just contiguous of the Pokemon anime, which, as we've discussed several times, is kind of a separate thing over here, which is what Shadow Machine's saying in chat right now. So we've got the Pokemon anime, the Pokemon manga, and the Pokemon games. And all three of these, while they are all Pokemon, they're all sufficiently distinct as to effectively be three separate IPs, right? I mean, anybody who's studied Pokemon at all knows what I'm talking about here. So, that's why I don't consider that, because these are not the Pokemon games made into movies, it's the Pokemon anime made into movies. And the Pokemon anime is blah, 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 blah. Yeah, the manga's way off in its own thing. For good and for bad. Oh, excuse me. The Street Fighter movie. The Street Fighter movie is definitely a so bad it's good for me, but I can't call it actually good. I mean, yeah. What else do I need to say to that? I actually used to remember the Super Mario Brothers movie as so bad it was good, and then I rewatched it a few years ago, like, I guess 4 years ago at this point. I forgot how bad that film is. I mean, there's still some stuff I can make fun of, but wow, it's bad. Jesus! Now, Mortal Kombat, I enjoy Mortal Kombat. The first one. The first one. Mortal Kombat 2 is bad. Just, wow. What were you thinking? Oh yeah, by the way, I actually saw Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 in the theaters. Now, I've told this story before, but just really quick while we're here. The reason I saw Mortal Kombat 1 in the theaters is, first of all, because Lore Mom is a big film geek. She's where I get most of my film geekery from, actually. And she had a... Oh, no, absolutely, if and but. Nobody's shown interest in Mechanicus. That's why it's not on the list right now, but I will put that on right now. I'm interested in it. Hammer Mechanicus, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong. Thank you very, very much, if and but. Christopher Lambert. Lore Mum. He's hot, okay? I mean, I'm not into guys. Thank you very, very much, Gary. But I know a lot of girls, and I know a lot of people who are into guys who are rather fond of Christopher Lambert. That's why we went to see Mortal Kombat 1 in the theaters, because of Christopher Lambert. I actually went with a friend of mine, Joel. It was fun. then Mortal Kombat 2 came out, and we went to see that in the theaters because we liked the first one. Yeah. Anyways, moving on. The Resident Evil films, I will speak at least in average, like, neutral tones about Resident Evil 1. I'm willing to accept that Resident Evil 1, the first film, is not a bad film. I can't say I like it, but there's definitely some decent parts in it. But the problem is, then there's Resident Evil 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 17, 36, and 58. And yeah. By the way, I've seen up to 4, I think? I actually lose track. In all seriousness, I lose track of which Resident Evil film I've seen up to. The one where they actually finally fight... I can't think of anyone's names today. Where they fight this guy. Right? You know who I'm talking about. I've seen up to the film where they finally fight this guy. Wesker! Thank you, Wesker. I would say, my personal opinion is that Warcraft is the best video game movie to date. That is, of course, just my opinion. I know it's not for everyone. And again, it's still a flawed film. There are still some very significant problems when it comes to the Warcraft film. I would also say Mortal Kombat 1 is reasonably high up there on the list. And past that, it's hard for me to judge because there are several video game films, most of which we just talked about, that are enjoyable, but it's hard to really call them good. Like, for example, and I know I'm going to get super flack for this, but the Assassin's Creed film. The Assassin's Creed film was nowhere near as bad as you know, a lot of people seem to make it out, in my opinion. But at the same time, it was not great, not all that good, you know? But it also wasn't terrible. It was just kind of there. And there were some cool things, and then it was going back to being there. You know? And then Prince of Persia is the other one. Yeah, Prince of Persia and Assassin's Creed are both kind of, yeah, okay. All right. All right. Yeah, now that what Rax says is something that I am hopeful we're someday going to break the trend of. I really am. Because in my opinion, we have never had a truly great video game film. My opinion. Now, obviously, different people are going to disagree with that and have different perspectives on that, and that's, as ever, great, because personal opinion is a huge, varied thing. But happy NLB? I don't know what that stands for, but welcome to my stream. Shoutouts. We're discussing video game movies right now. Don't be a stranger. I love talking and chatting with you guys. So if you want to talk, chat, tell me how horrible I am, tell me how much you hate me, by all means. But yeah, I don't think we've ever had a truly great video game film. One that I could just look at and be like, God, that's a work of art. Ready Player One is definitely not a video game movie, and I also haven't seen it, so I have no idea how good it is. But that is definitively not a video game movie. Any more than Wreck-It Ralph is. I actually agree with Hazardous. Thank you, Revan. I think Red Dead... Well, okay. I've said this already, and I know multiple people in chat have already said this, but there are... Most of the games that would be good translate into non-interactive medium would be better as a show than they are as a film. Pardon me one moment. Excuse me. But, like, I mean, several people just said it. Red Dead Redemption is yes, boom. Right? Oh, yeah, also, someone asked about Spirit Within. First of all, Spirits Within... is kind of in its own category, but close enough to qualify as a video game movie that I'm willing to allow it in the video game movie category. Because the idea is if you take the aggregate of Final Fantasy as a concept and made a film about it, that's what they tried to do with Spirits Within. That being said, I do not like Spirits Within, and I have rewatched it somewhat recently. Because a friend of mine had never seen it, I wanted to watch it with her. I'm sorry. I as ever, personal preference and opinion is a thing. But that film... Whew, I actually saw it in the theaters too, Justin, with my girlfriend at the time. But, again, I rewatched it recently, and... No. I mean, there is one good thing in that film. God, I had to narrow it down to one thing, in my opinion. But the rest of it, the voice actors are just really boring with only two exceptions, excuse me. The overall plot is very, very badly paced and pretty much slotted in the exact worst spot. Like, the story happens right here. It should have either happened here or here. But instead it's right here. Like, it begins towards the end of the story, and it ends before the story ends. It's the weirdest choice for plot construction I've ever seen. And it's... I mean, the CGI also varies in quality. How many of you remember that? Or how many of you have noticed that? Like, there are scenes, if you actually took screenshots from different scenes in the film, with the same character, they look different. Because the rendering is literally different across several aspects of the movie. It's true, Cashel. But yeah, I mean, there's so many issues throughout the course of the film, from a narrative perspective, from a visual perspective, from a voice acting perspective, from the animation is not good. I'm sorry. It's not the worst animation I've ever seen, but to be completely honest, I think Reboot had slightly better animation. Not because it was more realistic, but because it was better animated. Yeah. And of course, lest we forget, it is the film that nearly destroyed Squaresoft as a company, and in fact is the single biggest reason why Square Enix got pushed back several years, because Enix, however you want to say that, didn't want to merge with a company that had just torpedoed itself financially. Oh, also, I also think Spirits Within is gross. I think the way that they present the guts monsters is really gross. So on top of everything else, there's that. Anyways, I'm sorry. I'm getting way off topic here. Moving on. Yeah. I do have a couple other things to talk about today, I swear. Let's talk about... How many of you guys like Sony? I have no plans to, Javes. So. Yes, I was, Savacom. What's funny to me, as ever, I understand that human interaction is human interaction. And that means you guys can't actually know that I'm telling the truth when I'm telling the truth. I know I'm telling the truth because I am myself, and I can acknowledge and understand that this is a true saying, whereas this is not, right? But I say that because I have actually spoken very positively about Sony games, especially lately. I mean, let's see. Horizon Zero Dawn, awesome game. God of War 4, awesome game. Yakuza 0, awesome game. Spider-Man, awesome game. Red Dead Redemption 2, awesome game. That's just 5 right off the top of my head within the last year. And that's just on the PS4. And yet, for some reason, people always seem to think that I hate Sony. I really don't know why. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. Let's get more to the actual point. Sony's pulling out of E3 next year. So, Can you name an example, Takoida? Off the top of your head? Unless you're talking about the PS3 infrastructure problem, which anybody who's defending the PS3 infrastructure has issues. Now, what's funny is, to my knowledge, and I looked into this yesterday, I didn't look into this morning, we still don't actually know what Sony's doing instead of E3. In fact, they've been fairly... Like, again, can you name an example, Dakota? I legitimately don't know what you're talking about. We don't actually know what Sony's actually doing next year. We know that they're not doing E3, and that's it. And I mention that because the rumors are currently screaming around that this is all about the PS5. So again, you're talking about the PS3, right, Takoida? Because the PS3 operating system was garbage. I mean, that's not an opinion. PS4's infrastructure is fine. The PS4's infrastructure is a PC. Anyways, now, okay. Let's go ahead and just say this very simply. The very idea of anyone pulling out of E3 is something I'm generally in favor of. Although I have to repeat the joke. I didn't come up with this. Please forgive me. Guys, Microsoft now has another exclusive. They get A3 all to themselves next year. Anyways. But I am at least in favor of this idea, like, tangentially. Because, again, I'm the kind of person... World premiere. I mean, that could be Takoida. That's entirely possible. And Lord knows that I don't police every single word I say over the... I mean, I've been doing this job for 7 years now. My opinion has also changed over those 7 years on several things. But yeah, anyways, I'm sorry, E3. So, I wonder if... I like the idea of the companies doing basically two separate conventions. One that would cost them a lot less money and is far more gamer-focused, as in customer-focused, and one that is probably going to cost more money and is more investor-focused. I've been saying for years that the fact that E3 tries to blend these two things is a mistake. And I know that it's one of those things that it's the spectacle, right? I mean, everyone understands that. It's the spectacle. It's the deal. I mean, everyone kind of comprehends that E3's kind of a joke. But still, I know plenty of people who it's like, oh man, I get to go to E3, or oh, I'm totally watching E3 this year. Because the spectacle is still interesting. I mean... Oh god, I can't think of anything right now. Gary, what's that freaking F1 race that's super rich? Oh god, I'm gonna have to look this up because I don't know if Gary's really watching right now. Monaco. It's like Monaco. It's like Monaco. Monaco is ultimately just another Formula One race, really. It isn't really that big of a deal, and a lot of the people who actually dump the money on going don't really even pay attention to the race. But it's Monaco, right? Make sense? So that's kind of the position E3's been in for years now. Arguably, probably for like at least 5 years at this point. Now I bring that up because I'm, of course, in favor of proper financial interactions, and you know, for proper financial purpose. And I personally think that they should do something where they don't spend as much on frivolous marketing, right? E3 is frivolous marketing. Let's just be honest with it. Now, it'll gather a lot of attention, but this is 2018. This is going to be 2019. If you want to make a big announcement about a game, you can do that with a Twitter post. And the world will pick up the slack for you. Now, obviously, that only really applies at the higher levels. But again, we're talking about Sony. If Sony put out a Twitter post saying, hey, Last of Us 3 or whatever, you know, something. Last of Us 3, we're totally working on it right now. More news in a week. People would explode over that. You know how much that Twitter post cost? Yeah. kind of my point. So I think that they could manage their marketing side of this much, much better and just have the boring investor meeting. Do it in a hotel, right? Like most other investor meetings are done. You rent out a section of a hotel, and you get one of the meeting rooms, and you get a boring person in a suit to go up there and say, okay, so here's what we're looking at for the next quarter. And we're going to have this, and this is what we're coming out. This is what we're planning on right now. This is the new hardware we're working on. This is the new software we're working on, blah, 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 blah. Right? I mean, I've actually been to meetings like that. Then, have a thing like the Nintendo Direct. I mean, I'm sorry, I hate to use that as an example because everyone's just going to accuse me of being a Nintendo fanboy again. But the Nintendo Direct is a great idea. Hey, we're having a Sony Direct on January 12th at 7 p.m. Pacific time, right? And then here's a link to the frickin' Twitter feed, or not Twitter feed, sorry, Twitch feed, and have a Twitch link and have a YouTube link, and put up a thing and be like, bam, here's our content, go! And we'll watch it and be like, dude, that's awesome! Or maybe we won't say that, but you know... Yeah, as long as you don't have to make every Nintendo Direct about Smash. Did you know, by the way, that there is a rumor going around right now but that the second Nintendo Direct, which is happening this month, is also going to be about Smash? I really hope not. The best part about doing these kind of Direct things is you can do them two different ways. You could do something... So let's use Nintendo as the example, because they're already doing this. You have Nintendo Direct. Now that's a prefab. That's a video that they had produced and ready to go, and they just hit play a week before the Nintendo Direct actually went live. So that's the prefab thing. Shakong. So you do that, and then immediately following it, or at a separate thing, you have the Treehouse. Now the Treehouse is actually people who are actually live, sitting there chatting about specifics about the game and playing the game. Right? It's not like other companies don't understand the value of this. Ubisoft did this last year, I want to say, when they were showing off Assassin's Creed Origins. You remember that? Ubisoft had their pagong, and then it went to like, and now we're going to go and play the game live and talk about it. And that was awesome. It's actually what sold me on Assassin's Creed Origins, if you're remembering this, because I was restreaming that. So again, if Sony is moving in that direction, great! I am fully in favor of that. That makes so much sense. It's such a good formula. Because then you have the value of the prefab construction of the presentation to show you the trailers, or the gameplay sections, or the hype, or whatever it is you want to show, the announcement kind of stuff. And then you have the people who are just, all right, so let's talk about this game for a bit. Because some people value those kind of live interactions, including me, I feel like saying. I know I'm not alone in this. In fact, okay, let's actually do this. Legitimate. Answer me honestly. How many of you guys right now have value or value a live presentation, ignoring the fact that you're watching one right now? Like if pretend I'm a new gaming company called Bellhammer, and I'm making a new game, and I've just shown you a trailer for it, and then I sit down and just start playing it while talking about it, while talking to you guys. Do you value that, right? I agree most E3 presentations are usually bad. No, chat wouldn't work, you're right. Not for something like this. You are correct on that, Dakota. I can keep up with like 300 people in chat at once. That's pretty much my record. 317, I want to say. But, yeah, 10,000 people. Couldn't keep up with that. So I'm seeing a lot of people saying yes, some people saying eh, a couple people saying no, which is totally cool. Again, I want you guys to be honest with me. Nintendo wasn't at E3 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I forget now. Nintendo's pulled out of E3 several times. In fact, some of you may or may not remember that E3 was actually basically shut down for a few years there some time ago. First of all, really quick, hi, Blue Wolf Alex. Hi, Lycon. We're talking about Sony and E3 next year, and how they're not going to be there. I know, right, Hazardous? And yeah, like, I agree with what Takoida says. I probably wouldn't allow, like, regular press into these events, but I don't think they need to be there. I don't think that's required for what I'm talking about, like the treehouse thing. You have the presenters, you have the developers, you have the game, right? That's true. Battletech actually did something really good with that. I forgot about that. You actually showed me a few links of videos of theirs, and I watched several of them. So one of the things that the Battletech developers did before Battletech came out earlier this year is they would do a Q&A stream. And that usually involves, you know, that's not a super easy thing to throw together. You basically have to have someone who is fleecing the chat to try and pull questions that they feel are worthwhile, and you know, that aren't trolling. Fleecing the chat to pull some questions out. Toss the Q&A at the actual person over there, and you've just got a table with the developers up there, and the developers are like, hey, and they just answer the questions. In my opinion, they also need to have someone who's a good presenter. I've said this so many times. The person who... How do I phrase this? The person who's good at their stuff isn't necessarily good at presenting that stuff. It's the speedrunning thing all over again, right? There are plenty of good speedrunners who have absolutely no charisma and no presentation value. That's why you have the person on the couch who's actually talking while the person's running the game, right? So again, same general concept applies. If you have a bunch of developers who don't want to talk or don't know how to talk or don't have charisma or whatever, you also have a presenter there, and the presenter's like, hey, right? The presenter actually then is like, okay, so here's the next question. This question's about Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. It says, let's see, can you turn off the motion controls when playing in handheld mode? Anyone want to take that one? And then one of the actual developers is like, well, yeah, I mean, you can turn off motion controls when you're in handheld mode. In the dark times! I'm not shaking the camera. I've already got a headache. I shouldn't have even done what I just did. Anyways, I'm just saying that this could be a good thing, that what's happening with Sony. We'll see. Again, this is all still in the air. We don't actually know what Sony's actually doing. We'll see. And yeah, several people in chat are giving excellent examples of other developers who do the same thing. This whole, you know, continuous streaming, interacting. I'm surprised nobody's mentioned Cryptic. Cryptic was really good about this for a long time. I don't know if they still are. But Cryptic would do very regular streams with the actual developers, and it would be like the developer playing the game while answering questions and just chatting with viewers, which was also pretty excellent. Star Trek Online, to give you an example of a Cryptic game. Anyways, I do have one last news tidbit today. God, this is a really long Loreweek. How many of you guys, if you don't care about Final Fantasy XIV, this is a good time to bow out. It's up to you. So Final Fantasy XIV announced their next expansion 2 days ago? 3 days ago? Something like that. Pretty recently. Shadowbringer. Bring on the edge. Oh yeah, and EA is also doing a remaster of the old Command & Conquers, and I'm not sure I care. I just... Really quick. There we go. 2 days ago, apparently. Shadowbringer. So it's a new... I hope so, Tara Bradford. It's a new expansion. It's coming out next summer. Well, that is pretty creepy, Revit. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I have so many questions. Who's the angel? Why do we have to become the Warriors of Darkness? Why is Xenos involved in anything? Of course, I don't even know who he is, so whatever. I haven't played through Stormblood yet. Correct, Crazy Norse. Oh, woohoo, Hazardous. It is a sad day when it is news that a video game does not have microtransactions. And that's all I'm going to say about that. They're going to be continuing the story. They're going to be taking the fight to the Garlemald Empire. Very first thing I thought, that actually disappoints me a little bit. I was really hoping that we would actually be able to see another side of the Empire. Now, again, I haven't played through Stormblood, so take this as the amateur, you know, stupid, idiot opinion that it is. But I really like the idea of seeing the enemy side, right? Of being able to... One of the things I enjoyed most about several stories in Star Wars was when we actually got the Imperial perspective. When we got to see what it was like over there, right? I liked that. I liked being able to see more of this. And more of the enemy, and fleshing them out so that they're not just, you know... Yeah, TIE Fighters, an excellent example of what we're talking about here. So I was really hoping that, given that apparently there's... And I gotta say apparently, because again, I haven't played Stormblood. There is a lot of... there's a whole lot of development of the Garlemald Empire in Stormblood, that they were going to go full tilt with that. But no, apparently we're just killing them. And as Rax says, this is the expected thing. This is the obvious thing. We've been fighting them since FF14 1.0, right? They've been the bad guys this whole time. It was literally part of the premise before FF14 even came out. We'll see. We'll see. That was my very first thought. I was like, really? Come on, I don't want to fight them. Next thing is they mentioned that this might be the final Umbral era. Why? That's a really weird question, thing to say. And I'm really curious about that. Because, yeah, exactly, Jaludo. Because, for those of you not aware, the way the Umbral eras work in FF14 is each Umbral era is a significant and massively devastating event that basically kind of etch-a-sketches the world to some extent or another. The last Umbral era ended with the destruction of FF14 Vanilla and the beginning of ARR, A Realm Reborn. So that's the level of devastation and resetting the board that an Umbral era involves. Well, I'll talk about it, Necro, don't worry. Now, I bring that up because, I mean, a new Umbral era makes sense. I mean, this is going to be a full-out war between the 5 city-states and the Garlemald, so, yeah. And, of course, we've also... I wasn't even going to bring up the Asians? I forget how they say it. I was just listening to this last night. And Zodiark. Apparently, we're learning more about Zodiark, which is good, because, to my knowledge, we actually don't even know anything about Zodiark yet. But, again, I haven't played Stormblood. So that's cool. But long story short, what I want to know is why this would be the final Umbral era. Now, of course, the obvious answer to that would be we're dealing with the Asians once and for all and dealing with Zodiark once and for all. And that would be the most logical answer to that question. Past that, I'm not sure what else to say about that. It could be argued that the Garlemald War and all the other more mundane, world-affecting things aren't really the significant impacts of the Umbral eras. I've heard debates about that. I don't want to get into that right now. So we need to become a warrior of darkness instead of a warrior of light. I'm going to say this one more time. I haven't played Stormblood. But given what I have seen so far, that is a very interesting thing to happen, because that seems to be going in relative contrast to what the story has been so far. This isn't Kingdom Hearts, right? I mean, the Void Scent are bad. They're not misunderstood. They're not different. They're bad, right? Now, that being said, we don't know the full nature of what Zodiark is, or what its relation is to Hydaline, or whatever her name is. I actually don't remember how they say her name right now. Please forgive me. But yeah, all I'm saying is that this doesn't look like a... From what I know of the lore of this setting, which is not that much, it doesn't really feel like... This doesn't feel like Kingdom Hearts. This doesn't feel like Star Wars. This doesn't feel like Final Fantasy III, where the darkness is just the other half of the equation, right? Something that can be used for evil, but is not necessarily evil. Now, we do know the Warriors of Darkness exist. I haven't done that raid, so I don't know specifics about that one. But other than that, I've seen no evidence in the story that the Void, or the Void Scent, or the Darkness, or anything, is anything other than just the bad guys. It was as if George Lucas showed up and just started writing for FF14. Now, I'm not against that, per se. But if we have to become the Warrior of Darkness, that doesn't make sense to me. So we'll see where they're going with that one. Maybe they just want us to be evil? I don't know. It could also be said that the entire reason that everything's so wonky right now is specifically because the Asians, or Ossians, Askians? I don't remember. I don't care. The dumb cloak people who are dumb. Hated that one fight. Yeah, that is also something that's been hinted at, but we'll see. My head hurts. Let's talk about the Blue Mage. That's what I really want to talk about. Because the story stuff, I just can't comment on extensively. Let's talk about Blue Mage. I can talk about that. I know a great deal about game design in general, and MMO design in specific. Let me go ahead and say, first of all, hello to Squiggle Story Studios. Welcome to the stream. We're talking about FF14 right now, but you're welcome to chat, talk, discuss, whatever it is you want to do. Tell me how much you hate me. As of where I'm at the story, darkness is clearly representative of evil. Yes. I am being told that that is not true. I have to take that on Rhett because I haven't played Stormblood, and I've only seen a bit of Heavensward, but near as I can tell, that's barely even involved in that. We'll see. I'm willing to admit that I don't know, because I don't. Because that's the truth. But anyways, getting back to the Blue Mage thing, like I was talking about. So first of all, we've had a lot of discussions in Discord and in person with friends about classes and class design when it comes to adding a new class to an MMO like FF14, especially an MMO that already has quite a few classes, which, let's be honest, several of them don't really play all that differently from each other as is. This is a problem that a lot of MMOs have, actually. This isn't exclusive to FF14. So the biggest thing I was always very strong on was the idea that you have to do something to make Blue Mage feel different. You know, it's the Dissidia thing all over again, right? You don't add a new character to Dissidia, or to Smash, for that matter, because they're cool. You add a new character because they can play differently, because they feel different, because they add something new to the gameplay element of the game. Hello, Frank Chiappa. What's up? Yeah, I know, we're talking about Blue Mage right now. So, Blue Mage, I mean, everyone loves Blue Mages, right? FF5, FF7, FF6, I guess that's it. But the very idea of a Blue Mage is very cool. You use the enemy's abilities against them. And that's the basic premise of the Blue Mage. The problem with that is that the Blue Mage's capacity rests solely on the design of basically everything other than the class. Oh yeah, Kuina, sorry. Oh yeah, and Quistis, I forgot about Quistis. I don't really use Quistis' blue magic like at all. I have used Kuina's though. Like a lot. One of the time, the second time, I was just telling Pax the story last night, the second time I ever played Final Fantasy IX ever, I got to the point where you get to the Outer Continent for the first time, and ran around for a second, and got the Cactuar, you know, 1,000 Needles. In case you weren't paying attention, at that point in the story, like if you're just playing FF9 normally, on average you're doing like 200 to 300 damage in attack, and 1,000 Needles does 1,000. So Kuina suddenly became my heavy for quite a bit of gameplay time, but anyways, I'm getting off topic. So, but yeah, a Blue Mage relies on the design of the game around the Blue Mage, not the design of the Blue Mage. I mean, that sounds like a duh, but it's more true with a Blue Mage than it is for any other class. Because, first of all, obviously the most duh is the fact that a Blue Mage's abilities have to be taken from the environment, from the encounters you fight and the enemies you go after. Number two, you need to make it so that those abilities are still useful dependent upon what you're fighting. This is one of the things that FF5 did very, very well. FF5, I praise the hell out of that game, the gameplay of FF5, and I will continue to do so, because FF5's gameplay was designed such that a lot of things were feasible. There were a lot of different ways through a lot of different bosses, and a lot of different bosses had a lot of different gimmicks, and that also applied to dungeon design as well. So a Blue Mage could be useful situationally in FF5, and could also break the game in half if you know what you were doing. But a Blue Mage also, if you remember, could not do that by itself in FF5. If you don't understand what I'm saying, let me put it to you this way. If you have 4 Blue Mages who are just Blue Mages in FF5, they will be strong, but they will not be overpowered. They will not break the game in two, because you need other things to really make that work. You know, Tamer comes to mind immediately. So, in order for an MMO to work with a Blue Mage, you have to have either been designing it from that, with that intent going forward. In other words, you were always designing FF14 with the idea of Blue Mages existing, which we know they weren't. Or you need to design new content in a way that it is designed with Blue Mages in mind, and just accept that the old content's gonna not really work that great. You know, the WoW approach, basically. Screw the old content. Make it easier. The end. Now, I thought they were going to do the second with blue mages, because that would make sense to me. That would be the best possible path going forward, given where they're at. Instead, they're going to be limited to going to level 50, although apparently that's going to be raised once the actual expansion goes live. But that's just a weird limitation. And they can't do certain things, like, say, Duty Finder, which is really weird. Now, they can do a fully prefab group. You know, you can make a group with a blue mage and then go do something. If you have, oh god, I forget what they call it. It's the prefab thing. It's the prefab thing. But you can't just LFG, in other words. And that's weird. And to be 100% blunt, I am not in favor of that. I just want to make that as clear as I can. I don't think that's a good move. The idea of them making you have to gain abilities from enemies by fighting the enemy, seeing it cast, and then defeating the enemy. Okay, I'm with that. Cool. The fact that it's a, and I'm quoting here, a rare chance to get the ability, I really do not like that. Now, the specifics of that are going to depend. Like, what exactly is a rare chance? 1 in 10? 1 in 50? 1 in 5? Because there's levels of acceptability here, right? If you have to go fight Marlboros for, like, 5 minutes to gain bad breath, that's not really all that bad. If you have to go grind Marlboros for the next half hour to 45 minutes, well, that's getting past the point of acceptability. Now, I know this is a Japanese MMO, and they just kind of go in that direction, but given the fact that blue mages also gain nothing as far as abilities from leveling up and have to actually get abilities from fighting and interacting thing, well, that basically that means that a blue mage either has to, they either have to basically dump abilities on you to start, to get you started, or you have to be carried. Now, as weird as this may sound, thank you to Zara for spamming my email last night, and also thank you very, very much for the tier 2 sub. I do much appreciate it. What would you like to put that towards? Sorry if I'm kind of slouching here. I feel awful. I know, they specified this is for solo content. Now, that's just the weirdest thing to me. Keeping in mind, I am someone who enjoys solo play in MMOs, but what I really like in MMOs is co-op play. In other words, I like grouping with Rax and Eingrad and Pax and going and doing stuff. I enjoy doing that. To me, let me just go ahead and say this. To me, what I would do, because a lot of this is still speculative with regards to Blue Mage, I would do a thing where a Blue Mage has to be carried. That they are the carry, or however that works in MOBA terms. And if they are properly carried, they become exactly like a carry is in MOBA terms. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, in MOBA terms, I forget if the person carrying is the carry, or if the person being carried is the carry. I forget which is which, but either way, it's the idea that someone basically gets experience fed into them and gold fed into them, because they're crap at early game, but they're much stronger at late game, so they need help to get to late game, and if they do get to late game, then they are the ones who actually help win the match. Make sense? That's kind of the general mentality of what I'm thinking for Blue Mage. Make them something that is gutter trash to start with. Like, I'm picturing literally having white damage, right? And then they learn an ability. Okay. And then they learn another ability and another ability. As their friends or party members or whatever are dragging them through content until they get to the point where they become much, much stronger. Now, again, in the case of a Blue Mage, it's not literal straight power. You know what I mean? It's not like they have Fire 7. But what would make a Blue Mage more powerful, what would make this apply to a Blue Mage, yeah, the quadratic mages thing, would be the idea that a Blue Mage can do whatever. Because that's the value of a Blue Mage. If you take everything else away, if you pare it down to the most basic concept of what a Blue Mage is, it is the ability to do everything. That is why the enemy skill materia is so damned useful in FF7. Because in that one piece of materia, you have an AoE heal, you have an AoE buff, you have multiple different types of damage, lightning damage, multiple elemental damage, fire damage, right? I mean, you have a lot of different tools in your kit. That is what a Blue Mage is. So again, make it so a blue mage has all of these abilities that makes them useful for everything. Make it so that a blue mage can heal, damage, tank, range damage, buff, debuff. Right? Well, you don't have to promise something that you're not going to keep. Promises have to be kept, after all, but I will jot that down for Warcraft 3. You got it. Yeah, I wasn't even confident about the level X spells. That's kind of a separate thing, admittedly. Warcraft 3 RE. Here we go. But yeah, exactly, Squills. Make it the master of whatever it is they want to do. Right? That's my thinking. Now, of course, they're not doing this. We're basically into the realm of the theoretical here. One of the two, AIs or Master, one of the two. But yeah, I love the idea of being like, let's bring a blue mage to the raid, because the blue mage will be able to deal with everything to some extent. And that also means you would also have to bring in someone who plays the blue mage who's good. Now, I know that sounds like a weird thing to comment on, but what I mean by that is what I envision a good blue mage being, especially in a raid environment, is someone who can read the situation. Very good situational awareness, right? So they look at the situation and they say, all right, this is a good time for an AoE heal. Let's cover the healing, kind of pull some of the weight off of the healers, let them regenerate for a little bit. Okay, hang on, this extra damage thing is about to happen. Let's go ahead and throw out a quick, whatever, to tank the damage or absorb the damage or proc the damage. And now I'm just sitting here. Okay, we need a little more DPS on this mob. We need to prevent this mob from even joining the fight. Mez, right? Make them someone who has the ability to deal with everything to some extent or another. Now, someone earlier asked a very important question. I didn't catch it. Who said it? Please forgive me. But how? Oh, it's Vec Machine. How do you make it so that they're not crap? Again, this is going back down to the very concept of what a blue mage is. In order to make a blue mage not crap going forward, what you would want to do is make content that is designed to test multiple aspects of the raid. In other words, design your enemies and design your bosses such that... I think I still have it on the... Nope, I do not. Make it so that you can make bosses that have things... I'm sorry, it's so hard to think straight right now. This headache is just getting worse and worse. Make bosses so that someone who can do just about everything is useful, but not mandatory. You don't want to, you don't want to a raid of 8 blue mages, right? But at the same time, if I'm being 100% honest, what's so wrong with a raid of 8 blue mages? Now, Takoida is touching on a problem that I've argued with for years. The fact that a red mage is a neat idea that's extremely difficult to actually implement. In my opinion, a blue mage is actually an easier way to implement what a red mage should be. My opinion. I'm going after I finish the stream. You could do that in some of the FFs, SJ. Now, I haven't played Red Mage yet in 14. I'm saving that. I've actually unlocked it. I'm waiting until... I can play it with my friend Pax. I really want to try it out. So I don't actually know how Red Mage is in 14. But in my opinion, in everything else, every other game that's had a Red Mage, in my opinion, Red Mages haven't been good. They have not been implemented well. Because the problem is the Red Mage is a cool idea, right? I can kind of cast, and I can melee a bit. But in practice, there's just too many reasons why you wouldn't want to bring that character into your party. I mean, let's be honest, the only reason you really use Red Mage in FF5 is because then you get the dual cast, once you finish maxing it out. And that's more useful for other guys, right? So in my opinion, the Red Mage is also an unresolved equation, keeping in mind I haven't played the 14 one. But in my opinion, the Blue Mage is a better way to accomplish the same concept. A mage that can cast a huge variety of spells. That's the very concept of a blue mage. Now, what was the other thing I wanted to comment on? That's true, Leander. That's actually not a bad point. Of course, I've also said that the Diablo 3 rune Rune system is one of the best gaming systems I've ever seen in my entire life as far as player customization. I'm astonished more things I haven't done that. Yes, we're still voting. This is a vote that we started last week, Tazara, so you probably already voted on it. It's for whether or not we're going to be focusing on low runs or premier runs when we get back. By the way, we're starting with Octopath. I just want to make that clear. First thing I'm going to stream when I come back is Octopath. We're going to finish that. Thank you very, very much, Carino. As ever, I do much appreciate those Twitch Prime subs. Would you like to put that towards anything in particular? You amuse me, little Billy. Now, Mike says Jack of all trades are rarely good. That's actually interesting because in real life, that's actually the opposite of true. Because someone who is good at a lot of things is usually simply more useful in real life than someone who's really good at one particular thing. Now, of course, in real life, in a proper team, when it comes to networking, when it comes to programming, when it comes to game design, when it comes to filmmaking, what you really want is people who are good at everything, you know, jack of all trades, and then a few hyper-specialized people who are really good at such and such. In my experience, and historically speaking, that tends to be basically, like, the best way to do that. So, transferring real life over into video games, ideally the idea would be to try and make a red mage or a blue mage in such a manner such that they're a good thing as part of the party composition, either because of their adaptability or because of their dynamic nature or because of the way that they actually, you know, do something. And then the hyper-specialized classes are the ones that fill in the gaps. You know, you're fighting such and such boss, you need tons of damage right now, that's where the black mage is there for. All the trash leading up to the boss, well, that's what the red mage is for. You know, something like that. I don't know. I know specifics are harder to pull off than it sounds. And yeah, by the way, what Horiant says is something. What Horiant says is actually the full quote, and I like to say that because so many people forget that that's the full quote. A jack of all trades and a master of none is generally better than a master of none. In other words, the idea is, a lot of people like to use the term jack of all trades as an insult. It's actually originally intended as a compliment. That's the original quote. I didn't know that until that was pointed out to me by a friend of mine, because a lot of people call me a jack of all trades. I mean, I am a variety show, after all. But it's true. Anyways. And I'll talk about... I actually could go off on a whole rant about Octopath right now, but I'm going to save that for when we start the stream up again, because I hate that goddamn game. But I also have to admit, there's a little bit of spite involved. Getting back to Blue Mages for a second. So, the other really big problem with regards to a Blue Mage is the fact that they have the math abilities, right? The math abilities, well, let's just start with this. The math abilities are usually cute, but ultimately only useful in extremely situational circumstances in most of the previous FFs. You know, having level 5 death is extremely useful in FF5 against the statue guys in the Second World, and in FF9 against the dragons, right? That's it, really. It's not actually... I've never even heard of that, Tigzar. That's not even... by the way, hi, Bragman. What was I saying? God, I'm sorry, it's getting really, really hard to concentrate. So, no, you're right, Mike ABC. Again, I feel like this is a design problem. So that's why... it's the status effect problem. That's a great way to go in that direction. Because if you're going to have the level X abilities in an MMO, well, you have to define how the level part works. Because some MMOs do have levels for bosses. I can tell you the exact level of every boss in World of Warcraft, for example, because they follow a formula. Whatever expansion a given boss is in, it's either the max level plus 2, max level plus 5, or max level plus 10. That's the level of, like, every boss in WoW, up to Legion. I'm not sure how BFA does it. So you can know the exact level of any given boss when it comes to World of Warcraft. Most MMOs don't actually have a specific level for their bosses. They're just a raid boss. So how do you do the level, how do you do the math abilities when it comes to that? Now, there's other ways to accomplish that, but the problem is, well, let's use a direct example. How many of you guys remember question mark in FF7? which I may actually be thinking of the wrong spell, so please forgive me if I am. But it's the one that gets stronger the more you run away from battle. Any end raid boss, Venters. Ragnaros, Nefarian. I can't think of the damn statue guy's name. Cthulhu and Kel'Thuzad, for example. No, not the chicken knife. That's FF5. I'm talking about FF7. There's a spell you can get very, very early in the game. You can get it before you even attack the Midgar's arm. And you can get it from the Chocobos. But anyways, it is the chicken knife 2.0. Now that's neat, but the point of that spell is with enough time and investment, that spell becomes very powerful. Is it Chocobuckle? That might be what I'm thinking of. My reason for bringing this up is I am actually okay with that idea in most RPGs. I've actually kind of slowly shifted my opinion on this over the years. The idea is, if you are willing to put enough time and effort into making something overpowered, like if you know how to use the game properly, then I'm okay with that. But that doesn't apply the same in an MMO. An MMO is a different playing field. So do you, for example, do you allow something like the chicken knife in FF14? Now, obviously, there's no running from battles, but you get my point. Something that if you just went and grinded and grinded and grinded and grinded and Heigelweig and grinded, and then it's just this super powerful attack, do you allow that in an MMO environment? Now, obviously, you don't allow that in PvP. Duh. But I'm not talking about PvP. See, the problem is, in an MMO environment, this is already kind of a problem in single player, but in an MMO, it often becomes about what's the best party composition. Someone brought this up earlier, you know, 8 blue mages being the best party might be a problem in something like an MMO. If it gets to the point where 8 blue mages are just overall better than a, you know, properly varied party composition, then we have a problem. Now, it's worth noting, and this is something to keep in mind, there will always be a best party composition. That's inevitable. And going too far out of your way in trying to prevent the best party composition problem is a mistake. It's a fallacy. Because there will always be something that is the best. With the amount of variables that exist within an MMO, you cannot level everything out equally. You cannot make everything equal. It's impossible. However, I do think that effort needs to be done to make something not what I like to call clearly better. You know, in other words, let me put it to you this way. Let me use WoW as an example. In World of Warcraft BC, if you need to tank 15 mobs, there's only really one choice for that, and that's a paladin. Because a paladin is clearly better for it. It's not a case of, you know, oh, well, you know, it's a few percentage points is better, or it's kind of... No, a paladin is just overwhelmingly better at AoE tanking back in BC. Make sense? So trying to avoid the problem of clearly better is what I think really needs to happen when it comes to MMO design. Now, I'm sorry, I don't understand your question, Lycon. Please forgive me. I mean, we've been talking about Blue Mages for 30 minutes now. But yeah, what Rax is saying is valid. Let me give you another World of Warcraft example, because I know WoW very well. There was a point in history in World of Warcraft where people could be trying to get into a particular raid group, even within a pre-existing guild. Like, within the guild, it's like, all right, we're recruiting for this raid. Here's what we need with these 3 classes. And one of those classes was always a Shadow Priest, and one of those classes was always a Shaman. Because they needed Bloodlust, and they needed Vampiric Touch. Period. This was not something that was debatable. Right? So some people just get to say screw it. And a lot of other people were encouraged to level shamans and priests because they just basically got that automatic raid slot, right? So, yeah. I think you kind of get my overall point here. Now, of course, all of this is the realm of the theoretical. You cannot take blue mages to raids unless you do a prefab. So it basically doesn't matter. All of this is the realm of speculation and what we might do in a future situation with something like a Blue Mage in an MMO environment. What they're actually doing, what they are actually approaching when it comes to the Blue Mage, is limiting the ever-living crap out of what they can do. Which... I do remember that, Valerian, yes. For Gar, that is correct. You're funny, Bragman. But yeah, this is a problem that they have their approach, near as I can tell, is basically to just say, all right, we're just locking the Blue Mages out. It's designed for solo play. It's got its own content, and they're also adding the trust system, which I guess is from FF11. I quit FF11 before the trust system was implemented, if that's what I'm thinking of. What's funny is I've been in favor of the concept similar to the trust system since, oh, I don't know, Guild Wars 1. Which was, what, 2004 at this point? In other words, the ability to bring along NPCs, and those NPCs are now your party, and now you're soloing the game. Or in my case, duoing the game. That's a great system, in my opinion. Being able to bring NPCs in to make up party makeup, I'm with that. There are things that need to happen for that to really be feasible, you know, depending on the MMO in specific, but I do like that concept. Maybe that's part of where they're going with this Blue Mage thing, like to kind of tie in to that. Again, I wasn't able to find a lot of specifics on the extent to which you can use the trust system. That's the thing that... That's the only variable for me right now. Like, for example, I have no idea, Harriet. Could I... Kind of as this. Could I go ahead and bring a full part... Like, me and Pax want to go do the first coil of Bahamut. Is it possible for me and Pax to go get a party of NPCs and go two-man the coil, right? Now, what they were talking about was being able to do certain dungeons and certain main story content within Shadowbringer. So I don't know to what extent they're going to use this system. As ever, no MMO ever has ever really used this kind of system properly other than Guild Wars 1. The closest we've ever had is frickin' Tor. But that's another topic. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. I mean, that's what I like to call a band-aid solution, Sour Cookie. It's not a bad idea, but the idea is basically, all right, I don't know how to fix this in a large-term event, or I can't, or it's going to take too much time and work, so, band-aid. That's the band-aid. You can only have one Blue Mage in a raid. Boom. Band-aid applied. I agree, Retu. That was a good move. But Tor still hasn't really gone as far as it actually needs to. For those of you who don't know what I'm actually talking about, in Guild Wars 1, you can solo the entire game. Keeping in mind that your party composition has to be a certain size. Like, that is a forced party game. You cannot actually walk out without a party, as in literally by yourself, and do content. You will die. But what you can do is you can be the only player in your party, and NPCs can follow you. There's actually two types of NPCs in Guild Wars 1. There's henchmen, which are crap, and then there's heroes, which are ones that you actually customize and, you know, set up their abilities and set up their runes and all that fun stuff. Basically giving them a build, which they will then use in order to assist you. And you have the ability to, like, order heroes around and move around and stuff like that. In other words, you may be the only player walking into an 8-party area, but you still have 8 characters going through that area. Make sense? And that was one of the best systems any MMO has ever invented, ever. And I'm not saying that with hyperbole. Now, Guild Wars 1 had the advantage of being a system which didn't allow for... Let me rephrase this a little bit. Guild Wars 1 is a 2D game. Now, I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but what I mean by that is the movement across Guild Wars 1 is fully 2D. You cannot jump, you cannot go down a hill, you cannot go up a hill. It is a 2D plane, and you can only maneuver on certain maneuverable areas. Now, that actually made it so that the AI design for the heroes and henchmen was much, much easier to code, because the amount of space in which you can maneuver is a very finite and defined figure. This is actually one of the biggest problems that WoW had for many, many years when they were designing NPC pathfinding, a problem they only really started to solve by Pandaria. But again, you kind of get the idea. Having this party following you around was a great thing. The fact that you could customize them was a great thing. The fact that you could set up their builds was a great thing. The fact that you could set up their equipment was a great thing. And basically, no one else has ever really done anything with that. Like, a couple have. But not really. Tor, again, is the closest. See you around, Justin. So, again, being able to have that, the Guild Wars hero method in FF14, or WoW, or any modern MMO, is the kind of thing I would laud the hell out of. Now, based on what I'm hearing, the trust system is not that. The trust system is way more limited and way more simplistic. But I stress that because someone earlier said there's no way you could do turn 9 with NPCs, right? In Guild Wars, you could do legitimately difficult, hard mode stuff with NPCs. That was due to the nature of how they designed it. That's my overall point. That's why I just segued into Guild Wars there, because I wanted to answer that direct point. If they designed the NPCs properly enough, theoretically, doing turn 9 would be possible with NPCs. But I don't think they're doing that. In fact, I don't even think they're trying. I think this is more of a, you know, Band-Aid, like I was saying earlier. It's like, okay, here's some NPCs, because you need to do, you know, Ifrit or whatever, right? Well, yeah, it's true. That's true. As Rax points out, we don't really know as much specifics about the trust system, so who knows? Who knows where they're going with this? It's the same thing with the Blue Mage and with the story. It's like, they just did this reveal 2 days ago. We don't have a lot of specifics. That's true, Zastil. I wasn't even going to talk about the fact, funny little fact, in Guild Wars 1, NPCs were generally better healers than players. Just because they would heal instantly. Like, the moment they see that you need to have that heal cast, they would already start casting that heal. This is also why in Guild Wars 1, Mesmers were usually best as heroes, because they were basically perfect at interrupting, which was something Mesmers were very big on. One of my usual builds was to run around with a prot healer, a healer, and a interrupter Mesmer. And that was like my 3 usual. My 3 usual heroes. Anyways, I'm getting off topic again. Point being, we'll see where they're going with this. I'm still excited about it. You know, FF14 still pisses me off. I had no idea how much solo-only content there is in FF14. It's actually frustrating. So I'm trying to help my friend get through it. And he's like, well, I gotta leave group now. Hate that when they do that. But anyways, I'm getting off topic again. We'll see where they're going with this expansion. I'm at least excited about it. You know, that sounds cool. We're probably going to buy it. Probably going to play through it. Oh yeah, they're adding New Game Plus mode. Not sure of the exact specifics of that yet. I heard several different descriptions of what exactly New Game Plus was. And basically what it sounded like was you can redo quests while also keeping your current level. Cool. I mean, that would effectively be a New Game Plus. The keeping your current level thing is also very important, because, for example, right now I could go do, oh, I don't know, Copper Bell, and I will be level, what is it, 16, 20, something like that? I will be locked down to the level of Copper Bell, and I don't want to be. I hate that dungeon. Being able to do that again for a story at level 67, or whatever the hell I am, would be really nice. We'll see what they're doing with it. As ever, New Game Plus is an awesome feature that should be in basically every game. I guess that's all I have to say. Yeah, that would be nice, Harriet. Very, very few MMOs allow you to redo content. I've noticed that. It's one of the reasons why I kind of pushed the STO lore run so far forward, is because it's one of the only MMOs... I don't know, Omega Legion. I've barely started Heavensward. I don't even have flying yet. STO is one of the only MMOs that I can think of off the top of my head that lets you actually redo quests. It's one of the reasons it was so easy to do lore run for that game. It's one of the reasons I had to make new characters for the WoW lore run, because I couldn't redo quests on my warrior. Anyways. A favorite song from FF14. Yeah, hang on. I'm kidding, of course. But... is that it? No. It's like... there it is. Anyways, I'm out of stuff to talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and chop off the local recording. Those of you who've been joining me, thank you very much. See you around.